piercing screams shattered the peaceful summer night air, cutting straight through me like a knife. My heart pounded as I watched the horrific scene unfold, frozen in disbelieving terror. Danielle and I went way back. We were kids who grew up just a couple blocks apart, practically sisters from different misters. We shared all the dumb Hallmark moments, from schoolyard dares to those first awkward house parties in high school. She was my girlfriend, my confidant, the person I could split a ration of movie snacks with and riff for hours on our latest boy crazies. So maybe you can understand why I was so goddamn blindsided by what went down that fateful summer night. It started off harmless enough. Danny had been on this whole new age, woo-woo spiritual kick, going on about astral planes and guardian angels like she was effing psychic Vanessa from the 900 hotline. I just figured it was another one of her phases. She always had been a seeker, you know. But the girl took it next level when she started getting seriously sucked into the world of the occult. Suddenly, she was dropping words like ritual and forbidden into everyday conversation, watching those freaky YouTube channels about demon worship. At one point, she started messing with Wicca spells and reading these dusty old books on witchcraft and black magic that honestly looked like they should have been locked away in a metal trunk. I tried not to judge. Danielle had always been free-spirited and open-minded, qualities I admired. But this new obsession was getting dark and low-key scaring me, if I'm being honest. Still, I never could have predicted just how far off the rails she was headed. It all went to hell at Danielle's little spirit-cleansing ritual she badgered us into one warm June night. At first, it seemed corny but mostly harmless, just Danny chanting and burning some herbs around a bonfire. But then she completely lost her mind, trailing on about demons and screaming these unholy verses from her creepy black magic book. That's when she grabbed a broken bottle and sliced open this guy Eric's arm, holding it over the flames like a straight-up psycho. The screams, the smell of burning flesh, the look of sadistic ecstasy on her face. I'll never forget that gnarly scene as long as I live. My buddy Craig tried to stop the madness, but Danielle turned on him like a feral animal, swiping at his hands with the bottle and singeing him with the fire. It finally snapped me out of my horrified trance to see my oldest friend hurting people so willfully. With shaking hands, I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, tears streaming as I shouted at the deranged thing Danielle had become to stop, to just stop. But she was too far gone, ranting and raving about purification and ancient rituals. By the time the cops arrived, she'd booked it into the woods, leaving the rest of us to pick up the bloody, ashen pieces. I've relived that surreal nightmare over and over, trying to make sense of the senseless. One minute, it was just Danielle being her wacky spiritual self. Then bam, full-blown psycho violence like a scary movie. The screams still ring in my ears, taking me back to the thick smell of charred skin and the dismayed, almost pleading looks on the faces of our friend group. How could my oldest friend, my effing sister from another mister, lose her mind like that? Where did that evil possessing her even come from in the first place? The cops' investigation into Danielle's cult-level research into demonic rituals provided some answers, but none that could heal the rift she tore through my world that summer night. She clearly fell victim to some malevolent obsession, poisoning her mind with that dark magic crap. Part of me still hopes my oldest friend is still trapped inside that vessel somewhere, fighting to break free from whatever malignant forces hijacked her soul. But the more cynical part wonders if we ever really knew her at all, or if we simply watched helplessly while she surrendered to the evil within herself. Either way, that night's horrific events ripped through my reality, leaving wounds that may never fully heal. When your best friend tries to sacrifice you to demons, I guess some scars just run too goddamn deep.
That night, When I got back to my place after the big snowstorm, I was pretty spooked. The ground was covered in a good 1.5 feet of fresh, untouched snow, except right by the back door. There were a pair of boot prints, just standing there, facing the dining room window. And on the glass, a greasy smudge like someone had been peering in. The weird thing was, there were no tracks leading to or from the prints. It was like they'd just appeared out of nowhere. I didn't see anyone around, but the hair on the back of my neck stood up. My roommate was out of town for the week, so I was alone in the place. Those mysterious prints seriously unnerved me after the creepy incidents we'd had with people loitering around back before. I briefly considered crashing at a friend's place, but the storm was still raging hard, and they lived across town. Probably safer to just hunker down and wait it out. I triple-checked that the back door was bolted and pulled the curtains tight, hoping that would be enough to keep any weirdos out that night. It wasn't. As evening fell, I started feeling more and more uneasy, like I was being watched. I did another round of locking up, drawing all the curtains and checking that every window was sealed. But no matter what I did, I couldn't stop thinking about those strange boot prints out there in the snow. Who, or what, could have left them? And why? What did they want from me? The unsettling thoughts nagged at my mind, making it impossible to relax. Every little noise or shift of shadows had me on edge, glancing suspiciously at the curtained windows. Eventually, I retreated to my bedroom, putting a solid door between me and the rest of the house. Maybe if I cinched the covers up tight, I could just try to sleep through the night. But my nerves were too frayed. The slightest creak or groan of the house settling made me jolt awake, heart racing. I tossed and turned for hours, unable to shake the image of those inexplicable prints just ending in the middle of the yard. Like whatever made them had vanished into thin air. A metallic groan of moving pipes somewhere in the walls made me sit upright, ears straining. That's when I glimpsed movement in the dim glow of the desk lamp, the bedroom curtain drifting ever so slightly, as if disturbed by an unseen draft. But I knew every window was locked up tight, which meant only one possibility. Something else was in the house with me. Adrenaline surged through my veins as I slowly, cautiously pulled the curtain aside, bracing myself for the worst. That's when I saw it. A pale, gaunt face pressed against the glass, eyes sunken and unblinking. Frozen in terror, I could only let out a strangled cry before the curtain dropped again, shielding the horror from view. In that soul-shaking moment, I knew with chilling certainty that whatever malevolent force had left those boot prints was now inside, stalking the halls of my home. This was no human I was dealing with. The evil I'd felt in those lifeless eyes chilled me to the core. Some insidious demonic entity had breached the sanctuary of my bedroom. Chest heaving, I fumbled for my pocket knife, the only defense I could find against the supernatural menace lurking in the shadows. Staying as silent as possible, I inched towards the door, desperate to make it out to the hallway and freedom. But, with each agonizing step, I could feel the presence growing stronger, surrounding me, letting its foul power seep under the door to taint the air with dread. My shaking hand finally grasped the doorknob, but a deafening bang from the other side made me flinch back, knife clattering to the floor. Something heavy slammed against the door, again and again, as if hurled by a mighty unholy force desperate to break through and claim me. I backpedaled in wide-eyed panic, stumbling over the desk as the inhuman pounding intensified. The walls reverberated with each earth-shaking impact, until it felt like the entire room was quaking under the relentless onslaught. All the while, that malevolent presence flowed like icy sludge from every gap and crevice, slowly enveloping me in its strangling atmosphere of fear. I'm barricaded in the bedroom still, for whatever good it'll do against this supernatural siege rite from the blackest pit of hell. But I can feel its foul energy permeating the space, probing for any weakness to breach my meager defenses. May whoever finds this document know the true terror I faced on that winter's night.
Oh man, that day still gives me chills just thinking about it. I'll never forget the sheer terror I felt being alone and trapped in my own home, helpless as this unstable stranger kept showing up, refusing to leave. It was the most frightening situation I've ever been in. It all started a few years back when my husband and I were trying to sell our old car. This one guy just would not leave us alone about it. He'd call constantly, come by to look at the car, then change his mind and say he didn't want it after all. But then he'd call back the next day begging to come see it again. This went on for weeks. I had just gotten out of the hospital from a surgery and was home alone recovering when he showed up at our door one day. I didn't want to answer. I was in so much pain, and this guy was really starting to freak me out, especially with me being by myself. When I didn't answer, he started jiggling the door handle and then walked around the entire house, peering in the windows. He ended up sitting on our back deck for a few minutes before starting the whole process over again. I was terrified. I called the cops, but they just said he'd probably go away on his own, and if not, to call back. Some help that was. So I called my neighbors instead, these huge, burly folks who lived down the road. When they confronted the guy, he actually had the nerve to claim this was his house. Can you believe that? My neighbors set him straight, telling him there was a sick woman inside who was scared of him. The guy mumbled some half-hearted apology and shuffled off down the street. But that wasn't the end of the nightmare, not by a long shot. After my husband got home from work, he was confronted by the same deranged man in our driveway. Ranting and raving, the guy demanded we sell him the car, even though my husband knew he didn't have nearly enough money for it. My husband just wanted to de-escalate the scary situation, so against his better judgment, he told the unstable man,
"Look, just take the car and go. Keep your money. Just get off our property and don't ever come back."
Unbelievably, the guy agreed and peeled off in our old vehicle. We thought giving him what he wanted would finally get this psycho out of our lives and bring the terrifying ordeal to a close. How wrong we were. The true depths of his depravity were still waiting to be unleashed. A couple days later, we saw the guy's face plastered all over the news, caught on camera brutally murdering an elderly couple just a few blocks from our home. Apparently, after leaving our place with the car, he knocked on their door for some unknown reason, and when they answered, he snapped in a frenzied rage. The images of his wild, dead-eyed look and the horrific crime scene left no doubt as to the evil he was capable of. I realized then we'd had a brush with pure, unrestrained evil that day. An untethered madman capable of unthinkable violence. To this day, I still get anxious whenever I'm just grateful my neighbors unwittingly saved us from potentially becoming his first victims during that monster's bloody rampage. To this day, I still get anxious whenever I'm home alone, worried that unhinged killer might somehow find a way to come back.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed getting goosebumps with us, remember to like, share, and subscribe for more hair-raising content. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss a scare. And if you dare, share your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Your engagement helps our channel grow. Until next time.